So I will just say when we go through this, it's probably going to surprise you, but I actually do agree with the matchmaker that Blizzard has. Not maybe perfectly, but I don't mind it what they have. But we're going to go over this blog post. There's two of them, and the second one has to deal with a lot with the match. So here we go. Hello, heroes. He's actually just only talking to me. The rest of you guys, I am a hero. In the first part of our we'll look at matchmaking works under the hood, etc. Ultimately, the goal of Matchmaker is to create as fair as possible across all game modes. We know matchmaking can be a source of frustration, especially in competitive, and we'd like to recognize it. It doesn't always feel like it's meeting its goal. We'll have some changes, yada yada yada. So, does this one really matter? Let's go over it. An approximation of each player's skill. Everyone has internal match rate and MMR. So that's... Everyone has to know that MMR is not SR. MMR is the hidden. And it's good to know this while we talk for the next one. So, this has been known throughout all of Overwatch. In fact, Overwatch's 2 matchmaking system there's no difference between that and Overwatch 1, except that you can't see it yourself. You can see it vaguely every 7 wins or 20 losses. Even then, what you get is a SR range of 100. Because you'll be like GM3, which could be, I think it's like 4,200 to 4,300, or whatever it is. So you do, like, it is, that's what people don't understand. It's identical. It is a little bit confusing and weirdly laid out, but it's the same exact system as Overwatch 1. So yeah, so here's your MMR. Your MMR can change, even your personal skill stays the same. This could indicate the general population is getting better or worse compared to you. You can see the example below with MMR quick play, with most of us right around the middle of the curve. So this is all of the player base, obviously, like, and this is when it's like, I'm the top 0.1%, they say, and that's what it means, is like, I'm down here. Most people, I believe it's like, is most of the people like 2,800 SR, I think is where everyone, like, a majority of people. Now, you have to understand what this means. MMR can change even if your personal skill stays the same. Because Blizzard uses the bell curve, guess what happens when you introduce, I don't know, let's say like 5 million players right around here for Overwatch 2? It pushes everything this way, right? And so this is why a lot of the people that are in top 500, they're like, these feel like master lobbies. They are, right? When you introduce 5 million people, then the people that were masters are going to get pushed up to GM. That's just how the system works. That's how bell curves work. There's going to be more people in every single rank. And this is why right now, top 500, and there is some hidden stuff, but currently top 500 is all of GM1, which is 4,400, which is actually pretty rare. If you look historically, top 500 usually stretches down to 4,300 or so, maybe even 42 at some times. But at the end of the season, it's usually like 4,250 to 4,300, up to, you know, wherever the number one guy is. Right now, everyone's 4,400 or above, and probably a good deal above it. And it sounds like they removed the 5K cap, and it sounds like they changed things where it's not about how many times, like, the system's not pulling you down as hard. Where, like, before, if you wanted to get from 4,990 to 5,000 SR, like at the top, you'd probably have to play 2 or 3 matches, because you'd get 3 or 4 SR per win, and if you ever lost, it'd be like minus 40. I think they got rid of that minus 40, and it's probably like maybe a little harder, but it's probably like for a win you still get 20 to 25, and a loss it's probably like minus 30. So it's not nearly as cutthroat as it used to. Yeah, just win more than you lose, and that's how you go up. All of the games, even quick play, use MMR. You never use your outward-facing skill tier or division to form matches. Likewise, the rank you see in a player profile isn't the same as MMR. So if you saw people like, "Oh, I got a diamond on my team," honestly, could be a Masters, could be a GM player. Again, what you see is not what they are. And this is where a lot of people get pissed off, but I fully 100% agree with Blizzard and how they do it. And I'll explain that later. Yeah, human teammates are humans. Ugh, isn't that the worst? Yeah, they can, they have bad games. Skill variation within groups, and I think this is where a lot of the issues are in, and I think this is a lot of what their season 3 and season 4 changes are going to fix, as they say in the Overwatch 2 part 2 of this. Groups can have large skill differences in a match, and in the match we typically like to make. So those of you at the very highest levels might notice these skill differences more too, because there are far fewer players at the top of every MMR curve. So yes, so basically they kind of pointed out teams are really rough, because you can have a guy that's GM, you can have a guy that's Masters. I forget what the skill rating difference is, but then you get pulled into a top 500 game, and all of a sudden you do have a 3,500 guy in a 4,500 game. We can't always avoid these type of matches, but we can make them feel better. These matches can often feel imbalanced if they create situations where there's a large disparity of skill within a single row between two teams. For example, we might match a highly rated tank against a comparatively low rated tank. So even the overall match is balanced, the competitive between two tanks feels one-sided. We got changes in the game over the next few months that will dramatically reduce these disparities. Try to find pairs of similar rated players in each role for matchmaking, for support, damage, and tanks. For damage roles and support roles, each player will be paired with one player on the opposite team. There will still sometimes be matches with large range of different skilled players, but in these cases, the two teams will be more like a mirror image of each other. It's insane that they weren't doing this before, but I've been trying to tell people for years, especially the people that are like, oh, there's winner's queue, there's loser's queue, they're trying to force 50-50, they're doing all this crazy stuff. Guys, do you know how fucking simple this matchmaker is? Don't get me wrong, it probably takes a lot of work to do, but the matchmaker just goes, pick 5 people, 3,800, sweet, pick 5 people, 3,800, sweet, make them fight, done. That's fucking it. That's all it does. There is no logic to this system whatsoever. It just tries to make teams with the average SR the same. The problem is you could have, a 4,500, and then this wouldn't happen, but and then 3 2,000 level players, and then, the average is 3,800 or whatever it is, and then I take 5 3,800 level players, and they'd say, the MMR system would be like, oh no, this is a fair game, this is fine. But now they're like, alright, we're getting rid of this stuff. You have a 4,400 tank, you're going to get somewhere around a 4,400 tank on the other side, and if you got a 2,800 and a 3,500 DPS, then you're going to have somewhere around, that same thing on the other side. Will this affect match seeking times in any appreciable way? That's the big question. If you add any all I can say is this: if you add any logic to the MMR system, it will increase times. How much? I don't know, but it will increase times somewhat. At the higher ranks, it probably will. They'll probably add a minute or 2.5 minutes, and then it'll start opening up the range of SR that you can find. To be perfectly honest, I don't even give two shit about setting up new players for success. Essentially, this is just how the system kind of figures out how good people are, and tries to get them to the matchmaker or to the MMR as fast as possible. But the blog they released today is actually a lot more info, and it's a lot better info. I like how they start with the TLDR, because they're just like, no one's reading this fucking shit. Your ranked games are formed based on your internal matchmaking, MMR, regardless of your displayed skill tier. MMR changes based off the result. Okay, so first of all, let's say this sentence by sentence. This is what I told everyone was going on for a long time. Very simple. Nothing's crazy. MMR changes based on the results of each match, with the amount of MMR you gain or lose depending on several factors like how highly rated your opponents were and how recently you last played. So this is like, if there's a big skill difference, then you will win more MMR, or you'll gain more MMR and lose less MMR. But on average, I believe they said at one point in time, it goes, at max, it changes 3 a match. So if you played really well in a match and everyone was high level on the other skill team, like a lot better than you, then you'll go up 3 MMR. What is your MMR? Is it 5,000? Is it equal to SR? Is it something completely different? Don't know, but it's plus minus 3 per game. Our team is aware of some community pain points. With competitive matchmaking, we have set improvements coming to matchmaking. We're also working on updates to the competitive system. For competitive play in Season 3, we'll reduce the number of wins between updates from 7 to 5, or 20 to 15 losses. For our matchmaker, we're implementing role delta changes that will match similarly ranked players within each role. So now you won't get a huge tank difference. This actually does consider this is a big issue. When you have one tank that's 4,500, another tank that's 4,000, that's a big fucking issue. Tank just matters so much. And I'm curious, I wish I could see the data, but I want to see how many times the team with the better tank, how often they won. Doesn't matter if the DPS in your team was worse or better. I want to see what the higher rated tank probably wins a lot more. As for this competitive update from 7 to 5 or 20 to 15 losses, a lot of people hate this, and I actually really like it, especially coming from like a developer's point of view. I like hiding MMR. I like hiding SR and MMR. I like hiding SR because you can fuck with someone's SR and they don't know what's going on. As crazy as this sounds, you could, in theory, start penalizing people's SR based on their behavior. So if someone got avoided a lot, you can make them win less SR. If you have someone that's abusive in chat, you can make them go down 50 SR. You can do a lot of things where you could put them in a game with other people like them and make that game not matter any SR at all. There's a lot of hidden stuff, a lot of stealthy things you can do against players to really make the community go in a better way because it's hidden. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but I do. I think that's really nice. The hidden MMR, I mean, they say why they don't show you it. If they told you how to make the SR, how to make more MMR, and they actually say they don't take in personal skill. It's basically, did you win or did you lose? The thing with personal skill is, as soon as you learn how the system works, then you just start hunting for that. Right? Oh, it's all about kills and not deaths? Okay. Then I'll just keep on trying to get a high KDR. I'll back out of situations when I shouldn't. I'll only play I'll start abusing the system. Yeah, there's a lot of abuse that can happen if people figure things out. Season 4 will include additional information about your current win and losses and competitive update screens. Our team has begun work for longer-term features and updates for both Matchmaker and the competitive game mode as we look forward to sharing more of these future plans. People have alts? That's cool. The funny thing is if your SR is hidden and your MMR is hidden, I can track your IP address. I can do what I want. I can do hardware, lookups. I can do all this stuff stealthily, and I can do whatever I want to you. I can make you win a game and make you go down 500 SR. Not 500, like go down 25 SR. Or I can just make you stay at 3,800. There's a lot of things you can do when things are hidden. So yeah, VPN, all that other stuff. You really have to go out of your way to do this for each. You need like a different hardware profile set up for each one of your accounts, doing a bunch of different stuff. But it's 99% of the time you can get these people. So here's what they're changing in rank. Also, I want to talk about one thing. So wide skill variation. I have mixed feelings about this. So there's me as a human being who's been a martial artist for 20-something years. If I ever went to a martial art class and I'm the best person there, why am I paying money to be there? Like, what am I doing there? Unless I'm running the class, what the fuck's going on? I want people. It's good to be at the mid range. It's actually good to be at all ranges of skill, but in a class there needs to be lower skilled people. There need to be mid skilled. There need to be high skilled, and they all learn from one another. And high skilled people, especially in martial arts, like when a new person comes in, especially if it's a big tough guy, that's great. That's like what a person on average is going to react to you. So there is immense value to having people of different skill levels in the same game, even when it's competitive. Especially for the lower skilled players, like, you learn so much more when you're going up against someone skilled. That is the time to shine. That is the best time to learn. So that's why I have a really big issue. Like, I'm conflicted. I understand people want competitive games where the games are very equal and all of that, but then there's looking at it as a community. How do we get the community to raise their skill level up faster in a more meaningful way than just making them play against each other and then watching better people? We allow groups. We allow players to group up even though there's a difference in MMR between party members. This is a major source of wide skill disparity in matches. This also is... This is a weird one for me because... Oh, man. They took away our ability to see people in teams. And even with private profiles, you wouldn't be able to see the SR. It's weird that they took our ability to see teams away because I think people could have picked up on this pattern. And they could have been like, oh, these guys... This really good guy's with this really bad guy. What's going on? They took away insight, and we probably, if they didn't take away that insight, I think the community would have noticed this probably a month or two into the game. Like, whenever I see teammates, that team loses. But we're working on some changes that will match parties with similar MMR disparities together more frequently, which we expect to noticeably reduce how often we make these wide matches. So they're saying, hey, look, the biggest skill disparities are when we have these teams with, predefined wide disparities. This also brings up the question of, do we need a solo queue? Do we need a duo queue? Do we, stuff like that. Other games have done that. But then again, we have open queue and roll queue, which already starts separating our queue times out even farther. And then roll queue is, you have 3 different slots for what people can fill. Unlike Dota or anything else where you're just like, queue. So can we have a duo or teams queue and a solo queue? I don't think we can in Overwatch. You're splitting things up way too many times. Because you have like teams queue, open queue, teams queue, roll queue, right, and then solo roll, solo open. There's way too many divisions. And the problem with having too many divisions is queue times go up dramatically. You want most of your people playing the same game. That way you have the fastest queue times. Off the matches, while displayed skill difference tier can still look very close when looking at difference in MMR between the two teams. The partial rank reset at the beginning of the season may be exaggerating this by making it look like someone is lower than their actual rank. However, regardless of the seasonal reset, players who return may see dramatic shifts in their skill tiers as they resume playing regularly, and the game becomes more certain of that player's current skill level. So yeah, we know that. We've also seen the community talk about inconsistent games or how some games feel incredibly one-sided, and that feedback has been helpful. Understanding what causes one-sided matches and how to reduce their frequency has become a major area of focus for our team. This is probably the skill delta for the tanks. This is a tricky problem because one-sided matches can happen in Overwatch, even between balanced teams. So our first step has been to study the problem and understand the various factors that can cause one-sided matches. And we're planning to share what we learned with you and develop a blog down the road. This is actually really interesting data because it's hard to piece this together, and I'm curious if they're going to piece it together in a meaningful way. Because you can start finding correlation where there's not causation. This is dangerous. You can easily assume something that doesn't mean something at all. Competitive updates are another topic we've been exploring. We want to feel a sense of progression without needing to focus on a super granular number like a skill rating. But we feel and agree with the community that competitive updates are a bit too infrequent currently. Yes. So I've said this for years where I'm like, guys, skill rating is not like. Skill is not what SR is. Right? Like, when I play the piano, I don't play the piano, but if I played the piano, if I played it poorly 3 days in a row, my skill hasn't dropped. But in Overwatch, if I have 3 bad days in a row where I'm like, I lose 5 games, yeah, I'm down like fucking 400 SR. I could drop a rank or two. But my actual skill hasn't changed. It just, losing streaks happen, shit happens. And shit happens really fast in Overwatch. You can have a bad week and you can be 2 or 3 ranks down. Like, you can go from GM down to fucking Diamond. It's possible. Does your skill actually change that much? No, it doesn't. That's not humanly possible. So I get them not wanting people to worry about, oh god, I went up 20 SR, oh, I went down 20 SR, they're just like, look, you're going to be in this range. If you win or lose, on average, it's going to be around 50, 40, 50, 45 to 55%. You're going to move up slowly or go down slowly, on average. And so, you shouldn't notice a change until, hey, I finally made it up a level. But most of the time, you're going to stay around the level where you're at because that's how it really works. You're the skill level you are, and it's tough to get higher. And that's what I think is really annoying to people is they're like, they can't hit this win streak, peak at 3,500, and then lose again. Because they're like, oh, I was 3,500. Now, like, you peak, well, that was on your 6th win, and then you lost 4 in a row, so now you're back down to where you were. I can understand, basically, people can't track their peaks at any point in time. That feels frustrating. But that's just because they're worried about a number, and they're not worried about their actual skill, but then we get into, like, what is it? Why are you playing the game? What is skill? It's a shitty rabbit hole to go down. I can see both sides. I like, again, not showing people exactly what they're getting. So this is what they're doing. We're implementing some updates to the matchmaker to try to place pairs of players with similar MMR on each role on either team. This means that the opposing tank should be more similarly matched than before, and likewise for the other respective roles. The goal with this change is to make the average MMR between each role more evenly matched to each other instead of looking more broadly across the entire team to balance things out. This was quick and easy. That's why they did it. This is a major change to the matchmaker, so we'll be actively monitoring for any unintended side effects, aka queue times. We've seen feedback that having to play as many 26 matches to get an update has been discouraging for players. Starting with Season 3, you'll now get competitive updates every 5 wins and 15 losses. In the mid-season patch for Season 3, we're updating the UI, so information about your progress toward a competitive update will always be viewable. This is hilarious because as a one-trick, I actually had the advantage here. I could divide my wins and losses, or my total games, by 7, and I could see how many more wins I need before I can get placed. But yeah, there's nothing in the UI to show you how many wins you have and how many it takes until your next win, or until your next update. Also beginning with our mid-season patch, top 500 players will see their top 500 leaderboard rank updated after every match rather than in competitive updates. Thank you. In the near future, we've heard your feedback and confusion around seasonal rank decay and rank resets. Starting with Season 4, this means, I don't know why they can't do it next season. It's very weird. They can just say, update rank no. Or change it to like 1 SR if they can't really mod it all out right now. We're planning to remove seasonal competitive rank resets and all current and past seasonal rank decay. I don't know what the fuck past seasonal rank decay means. The fuck does that mean? Like, how do they retroactively do that? I don't know. We'll continue to build out competitive updates in Season 4, and we'll add information about your current win and losses to the competitive update screens. We're hoping this additional context will help you better interpret changes to your skill tier and division in the update. We're also looking into possible ways to provide you with more information about the matchmaking quality of your game. How about allowing us to export a fucking CSV every season of all of our data? Oh, and keep all of our data between sessions? Like, there's no reason why. They can't have every single match with all the data in every single time. Save it as a local CSV to your game folder. Boom. Sweet. Great. I got historical data I can look at. In the long term, we're looking to provide new ways for players to share a challenging and competitive experience in Overwatch 2. We'll share more of that down the road. Sorry about that. I had to sneeze. That said, matchmaking improvements are an evergreen area of focus for the team. This means they're always doing it, by the way. And they'll stay focused on testing and deploying continuous improvements. Yada. It's closing thoughts. Just make matches fair as possible. Equal chance of winning or losing. Yada, yada, yada. Games are fun and fair. Involving experience. Oh, they did this FAQ. Fucking hilarious. They're just... I guarantee this is what they did. They just said, hey, they went to an intern. They're going, man, what does the form always bitch about? And the intern's like, this? He's like, all right, I'm addressing all these stupid-ass questions. Do you deliberately place players into a winner's queue and loser's queue? There is none. What a surprise, because they want an easy matchmaker. That's it. Why do I sometimes have a large win or loss streak? This is the dumbest fucking question. I don't know, go to a casino and figure out the same reason, right? Shit happens. Like, sometimes you get lucky. And they're like, we're investigating it, but they're probably like, this is how it is. Does my competitive rank affect matchmaking? No. Again, only your MMR that you cannot see is used to rank, to match you up against other players. And the changes at the start of the season have no effect on it, right? That's only your SR. Why does the quality of my matches go down at the start of the season? This is actually the most... Yes, it's not that you're playing with worse players. You're playing with new players. That's the problem. Can we do a full rating reset? This is a... People want to do a full ladder reset. This happened accidentally, and it was the worst 3 or 4 days in Overwatch's history. Full rating reset wouldn't create a great experience, since it would mean throwing out all the knowledge we have about players. This would cause new players to be matched against Overwatch League pros, which is fun for no one. Or which is fun for about 30 seconds. Yeah, this happened, and bronze players were up against Overwatch. Like, this happened on stream. They got placed against bronze players, and they just fucking crushed them. Ratings aren't 100% accurate representation of every player's skill. Some players aren't in the right spot, but the system has a vast store of knowledge about the relationship and skill between millions of players, most of whom have never directly played against one another. So it has knowledge to place people relatively correct. Why am I stuck at a low rating that doesn't reflect my skill? This is the biggest copers I've ever... If anyone ever said to me this question about anything in life, I'm like, well, no, you just suck. You just don't want to admit it. One way to increase your rating is win more than you lose. We're putting players, since we're putting any given player on a random team with 9 random players, with enough matches, that players' contributions are the only consistent factor throughout. The rating should end up reflecting their skill. People don't want to hear that. No one wants to hear that. But it's the truth. There's an interesting phenomenon here, though, that makes it more complicated. We have data showing that matches become less predictable the lower the average rating of a match. Predictability is a measure of how likely the favored team is to win due to teams having never having identical ratings. One team is always going to be slightly favored for a variety of reasons. Coordination, gameplay mistakes, a new player who's trying out a different role, and 30 less heroes. The result is that we get a little bit less signal to use to calibrate ratings. We're working on some ways to get the signal we get more clearly, so stay tuned. This is true in like most everything, at least competitively. Fuck, what did we always say? The 2 fists you gotta watch out for in martial arts is an ignorant fist and a wild fist. A wild fist is just that. Just a fucking wild fist, no one knows what's going on, and come out of nowhere. It's just a flail. it could be coming from a throw and just the limb is flying around. The reason for that is just there's a lot of power in it and no one knows what the fuck's going on. And then an ignorant fist is someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but they just put a lot of strength into something, and it has a high chance of working. Because it's a fight. Like, it's highly volatile. When you get higher skill level, this volatility narrows in range, but it's still there. But at the lower end, like, this matters a lot. You can do a lot of random shit, and it still works. Sometimes I literally pull wrestling, like WWF fucking moves off on people in a sparring match just because it presents itself and I'm against a lower skilled person. Yes, like I've had people, I've grabbed both their legs like this and I spun in a circle and I fucking tossed them out of the ring. I've done that 2 times. It's the lower the skill level, just fucking anything goes. So you don't take the number of eliminations, damage dealt, healing provided, or any other scoreboard stat to adjust my MMR after each match. And they're just like, no. Because if you ever did this, you would start gaming the system. Win or loss. That's great. Why do streamers and pro players often have such long queue times and often end up in poor quality matches? This is the top 500 problem. Players at that skill level. It's a small population compared to the million players at lower ranks. Towards the center of the rating curve, there are tons of players in the matchmaking queue for us to choose from, all of who would allow a good match. So it's much easier to ensure a good match quality. In contrast, Overwatch League pros would maybe check up something like, I don't know what the fuck that is, 1/10,000% of the Overwatch player population. For players at the very top, it's hard to guarantee a good experience because there are just so few players. Fundamentally, it often comes down to a hard trade-off between making worse matches or dramatically increasing queue times. They're already very long for these games. We have some changes coming that should improve match quality for high MMR players, and we're talking about even more sophisticated things we do in the future. Yeah, I mean, there's just fewer players. That's just straight up think about top 500. You have only 500 people to queue with. At least in each role. And not everyone plays at the same time of day. So like when I play, maybe 150 DPSs at top 500 are queuing. Maybe there's like 30 tanks. Maybe there's like 400 support. You know, it's crazy. You don't really know what's going on at any point in time. So, yeah, and the longer if you require someone to be in top 500 to play a top 500 match, fuck, that increases queue times dramatically. So you just say, all right, well, let's start as time goes on. The range of SR that someone could get into my game increases, and at 10 minutes, it's like a 500 SR range. So it's just like there's nothing that you can do about it. It's just how it happens. Yeah. So, I actually have no problems with the MMR system. The only problems I had was that they weren't having the delta between like a similar SR player on each team for each role. That's the only thing. That'd be the only thing, just because tank is so important now. Because you'd have to say all. I mean, this would be fucking impossible. But, I mean, you'd have to look at the impact each role has and how important those roles are around the same SR. Because you could say DPS has no impact, so you could have a wide SR range for DPS. You say tank has the most impact, so you're like, alright, it has to be within 100 SR, and support has low impact, so it's within 200 SR. You know what I'm saying? So, with that, I'm fine with it. Everything else, it sucks you only get your update every 7 wins or 20 losses, but whatever, shit happens. I guess I don't care because I'm in top 500, and I can check the scoreboard every time to see how much I've gone up or down, while other people don't have it. So I am a little bit biased. So. But other than that, I mean, blog posts are good. These are pretty good blog posts. They have decent information. They tell you where they're going from, even if you disagree with it. Like, at least you know their concepts and thoughts going forward.